Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, and welcome to Command Power, the show in which we discuss all things Magic the Gathering with a focus on Commander. And today we have a brand new deck tech for you, but before that, just a quick reminder to please click like and subscribe if you enjoyed my videos. We're well on our way to 1 million subscribers and every single click counts. And today's deck is going to be centered around Imskir Iron-Eater for 6 colorless, 1 black and 1 red. It's a legendary creature, demon, 5/5 with affinity for artifacts. When Imskir Iron-Eater enters the battlefield, you draw X cards and you lose X life, where X is half the number of artifacts you control, rounded down, and 3 colorless and 1 red. Sacrifice an artifact. Imskir deals damage equal to the sacrificed artifact's mana value to any target. So first off, let me apologize for not making any long form videos in a while. I've been suffering from a painful throat and having almost no voice. As you may know, this is not my main job. I do work full time as a teacher, so that puts a large stress on my vocal cords, and I've had to take some time off to recover. So apologies for that. And also, we've just hit 4,000 subscribers, so that's awesome, and thank you so much for the continued support. To celebrate, and seeing as we're doing a demon deck today, I'll be doing a giveaway of 1 Whip of Erebos and 1 Dictate of Erebos. So if you would like to participate in the giveaway for those cards, please be sure to comment Command Power whips the competition in the comments for this video. So anyway, back to Imskir himself. He's a pretty powerful commander that we commented on a spoiler spotlight video on this channel. I think he's a really powerful commander that gives you a lot of good things, and I've actually built this since the set has come out because I happened to open it during my pre-release, and I've been playing with it and it seems very powerful. I've won a couple of games with it so far, and it always seems to be in contention no matter what happens, even if you have a slow start. So there's 2 ways you can build this. One of them is basically very focused on small token artifacts, and the other one is on big artifacts, and I've actually gone for a combination of both. I haven't leaned fully into either of those, but of course you could modify this by going full on treasures or full on big artifacts. But anyway, without further ado, let's get started with the deck tech, and we're starting off with Ancient Stone Idol. This is a great card to sacrifice to Imskir to finish off the game, because you're going to deal 10 damage to your opponents and it dies into another artifact, which is always nice. It also can come down for fairly cheap. A Yara, Widow of the Realm, gives us a nice little bit of redundancy, seeing as it does basically the same thing as our commander, and it can even be recursion in the late game. Bob's Servitor has been super interesting in this deck so far. It's actually a really powerful effect that allows for lots of politicking, because you can just send it to somebody who has really big blockers, and they can double, triple block with their blockers if they want to deal a bunch of damage to another player. You can kind of talk it over with them, and it can be a very powerful way to mess with your opponents. Canoptek Spider is a great way to draw cards in the deck since we're running so many artifact creatures. Chaos Defiler is a personal favorite of mine. I love this card, and it's very good in this deck because we're running an artifact theme, but it's just excellent removal on a stick. Chronomancer gives us a way to turn our small artifacts or artifacts we no longer need into cards. Cyberman Squadron is a very powerful effect in the deck. We're running quite a few artifact creatures, so this giving them Myriad is great, particularly since we can sacrifice the token copies to Imskir since they retain their mana value. Dalek Drone is one of 3 artifact creatures that kill something on ETB. We also have Necron Deathmark and Noxious Gearhulk. These are all very good because of course we want to be killing our opponent's stuff while advancing our board state. Dalek Squadron is really solid in the deck. Again, Myriad creatures are very good, so getting a couple of extra copies of this when we attack that we can use for our commander or to bring our commander down for cheaper are both great. Felden of the Third Path is great recursion in a deck like this, so we have a lot of big creatures that are going to hit the graveyard. Foundry Inspector and Juror's Familiar work very nicely by making all of our artifacts cast for less. Fairness Hellkite should come down for very cheap in this deck. It's a nice evasive beater that also counts towards our artifact count. Generous Plunderer comes down really early and makes a treasure every turn. It can also give us some reach in the late game, but we basically just want it as a way to generate artifact after artifact. Goblin Welder can turn any of our weak artifacts into the best one in our graveyard. Marionette Master is one of our finishers of choice. We haven't gone as heavy as we could have on the treasure theme, but this is still an excellent way to close out the game, particularly when we start sacrificing big stuff with our commander. Metalwork Colossus is one of the best things to sacrifice to our commander. It comes down for super cheap, it deals a ton of damage when sacrificed, and it's even easy to recur. Mishra, Tamer of Makfawa is really solid. Giving ward to all of our opponents can be backbreaking, but then we also get to unearth artifacts from our graveyard, and this includes non-creature artifacts too. Mere Battlesphere comes with a lot of bodies. That works very nicely with our commander by allowing us to draw a bunch of cards. Mere Retriever is just a nice little recursion piece that can make sure we have good things in hand all the time. Professional Facebreaker can be a great way to generate some extra artifacts, particularly since we have quite a few evasive creatures in the deck. Psychosis Crawler works very nicely with what the deck is trying to do. It's an artifact that's going to ping our opponents when we draw cards, and we're going to be drawing quite a few cards with our commander. Rose Room Treasurer works very nicely by giving us a free treasure whenever a creature enters the battlefield under our control. It can only give us 2 treasures per turn, but that's still plenty. Ruthless Technomancer Monster is a really interesting one. It can make a bunch of treasures in one go, but then we can also sacrifice any weak artifacts we have lying around to reanimate stuff from our graveyard. Solemn Simulacrum fits the deck perfectly. It's great to be sacrificed, ramps, and is also an artifact. Ginger similarly fits the deck very nicely. It's a solid early drop artifact that can bring our commander out faster and then grows throughout the game. Technomancer is an incredible way to reanimate a bunch of artifact creatures from your graveyard. Do make sure you have a few in there before you cast it, because it is possible to whiff on an empty graveyard. Brand Spider works so well in this deck. It provides 2 artifacts for our commander, which is amazing, and then it also gives us a Power Stone that can help ramp out all the rest of our deck, and if that wasn't enough, we still have a mana sink on it to get more cards. Threefold Thunderhawk is very similar to Mere Battlesphere, but might even be better in this deck. Triplicate Titan is amazing to sacrifice to our commander. This is going to leave behind 3 bodies while stealing 9 damage to something. Wreck Hunter is a card that I've always been looking forward to play, and this seems like the perfect deck for it. It's going to give us a bunch of Power Stones if we cast it after a board wipe. Wormcoil Engine is a classic, and it's still a great card to sacrifice to our commander, or just to run out as a value play. And Wormcoil Lava is a good addition for Modern Horizons 3. This leaves behind 2 artifacts, which is great. For sorceries, I wanted to highlight Terracier's Devastation. This is a board wipe that also gives us a bunch of Power Stone tokens, which is perfect with what our deck is trying to do. For instance, Big Score and Unexpected Windfall are obviously good because they make artifacts that reduce the cost of our commander. For enchantments, you have Biotransference, which is an incredibly powerful effect in this deck. It's going to make all of our creatures into artifacts. Most of them were already artifacts, but what we really want it for is for getting an extra artifact token whenever we cast an artifact spell, which is going to work so perfectly with what our commander is looking to do. And the Brothers War was tailor-made for this deck. Giving us 2 Power Stone tokens for the first mode is already amazing, but then later on it just gives us a powerful protection effect, and finally it's going to deal a bunch of damage to 2 targets to close out the game. Moving on to artifacts, I wanted to mention Collector's Vault. This one is very good because it constantly gives us more artifact tokens. Cranial Ram comes with a big body attached that we can then attach it to anything else to give those big stats to it. Genesis Chamber works very nicely in the deck because it's going to give us extra artifact token bodies whenever a non-token creature ETB is under our control. This both makes our commander cheaper and draws us more cards from him. Price Statue comes with 2 artifacts immediately, and we can get a 3rd one later on. That's great for this deck. Resurrection Orb gives our commander lifelink, which is important when we're losing life to draw cards, and then if it dies we get to bring it back to the battlefield, which is really solid. Semblance Amble is amazing in this deck. We want to exile an artifact creature with it so that both of our artifacts and creatures get reduced by 2, and then if we play this, it's going to reduce our commander by 3 immediately, which is fantastic. Spine of Isha is removal that we can keep sacrificing and getting back to our hand. The Mightstone and Weakstone are removal or card draw on a powerful ramp effect in this deck. Victory Chimes I wanted to highlight because it can be a political card, but also we have a bunch of activated abilities like we do in this deck. It's just free mana every turn. It can be a powerful way to close out the game by effectively making our commander's ability cost 1 less. And Whip of Erebos is again very important. Giving all of our creatures lifelink is going to matter quite a bit, and the reanimation effect isn't too shabby either. For Planeswalkers, we have Directi, which is a great way to both get card selection and return artifacts from our graveyard to play. And Karn Living Legacy, we basically want for the +1. Getting a free Power Stone every turn in this deck is amazing, and if we're desperate, the -1 can help us dig quite nicely too. Finally, moving on to lands, we're obviously running all the artifact lands we can, but Inventor's Fair is one that I wanted to highlight because it both gains us life and can act as a very powerful tutor, and both of those things are things we want in this deck. Reliquary Tower is one that we're interested in because we are drawing a lot of cards with our commander, and War Room is nice because we should have a lot of extra mana in this deck, so being able to dump it into this to draw some cards is always good. So there you have it. That has been my Imskir Iron-Eater deck tech. What do you think about this one? I've been playing it quite a bit and loving it so far, so I hope you'll give it a try and let me know what you think. But are there any cards you think I missed in this deck, or any cards you think I shouldn't have included? Let me know in the comment section below. I always make sure to read all of your comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click like or subscribe. It really helps the channel. And until next time, take care.